Hi guys, thanks for tuning in to another video on ForgottenWeapons.com. I'm Ian. I'm here today at the Rock Island Auction Company, taking a look at some of the guns from their upcoming September of 2016 premiere auction. And if you're one of those people who really likes, say, Russian firearms, and maybe especially Russian revolvers, but you're kind of tired of those 1895 Nagants, well, here is a really cool pistol for you. This is a gorgeous example of a Galand revolver. These were manufactured, well, first designed by a Frenchman born in 1832 by the name of Charles Francois Galand, and he came up with a rather novel way to extract cartridges from a pistol. This is a very early centerfire metallic cartridge pistol, and in order to eject the cartridges, he figured, let's just pull the barrel and the cylinder forward and have a little plate that holds the cases, and it doesn't go forward, so the cases fall out. So it goes like that. You may have seen one of these in The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly, for example. However, he patented this in 1868. Like I said, really quite early for a metallic centerfire cartridge pistol. And in 1870, he put together a version that he submitted to the Russian government for trials. It was also tested out by the Swiss and the British, but the Russians actually ended up adopting it. In 1871, they formally adopted it, and they called it the Model of 1870 boarding pistol, or boarding revolver. It was adopted specifically by the Russian Navy. The Russian Army would take a different route, and would adopt Smith & Wesson No. 3 pistols instead. So production of these for the Russian Navy took place in two different places. It was done, about 1,000 of the guns were made at the Tula Arms plant, and about 5,000 were produced by the brothers Emile and Léon Nagant in Liège, Belgium, commonly known as Nagant here in the US with a hard T. They produced a bunch of these guns for the Russian Navy under contract. They were a major manufacturing operation in Belgium at the time. Now, Galand, the original manufacturer, the original inventor, he sold these guns on the commercial market as well, and those were often manufactured in Paris at his own factory. He also had a factory in Liège in Belgium, and he had production agreements with the Brandlin production group in the UK. So British shops made these as well. So quite a lot of variety to where these guns could have come from. And there were a number of different subtle variations to them. But I think this is the coolest version, the Russian Navy adopted military one. So let's take a closer look at exactly how this system works and some details of the cartridge as well. So here's our revolver. There's a catch right here that you pull down in order to release the lever, which has this series of linkages to pull the whole thing forward. And you'll notice it has a cartridge retention plate as well as a cylinder. They are pinned together, so they rotate together. The ratchet teeth right here, which allow the mechanism, the fire control mechanism, to rotate the cylinder, those are actually located on this cartridge plate. And if you look at it closely, you will see that this is made for a very thick rimmed case. And, in fact, the cartridge for this gun did have a very thick rim. I believe that is largely because this plate was not intended to be a pressure-containing vessel, and so you didn't want pressure coming all the way back and potentially blowing out this plate. So instead, a very thick rim basically displaces the rest of the cartridge forward, where it can be safely seated inside the cylinder. You'll find this cartridge, it is technically 11.6 by 14.5 millimeter rimmed, so you'll see it referred to that way. Sometimes you'll also see it referred to as 11 millimeter Galant or 11 millimeter Perrin, or sometimes 12 millimeter Perrin. The Russians would have called it a 4.5 line cartridge, this being the 4.5 line Galant revolver. The Russians used a unit of measurement, the line, which is equal to 1/10 of an inch, because this is approximately 44-45 caliber. What else? You would also see it referred to as the 11 millimeter Galant thick rim because of that aforementioned thick rim. Black powder cartridge, heavy bullet going pretty slow. Think of it as fairly similar to a slightly shortened 44 Russian. Now, it is a double action gun, so you can see that the trigger will pull the hammer there, or it can be fired single action. This one, for all of its beautiful condition, does have something wrong with the trigger return spring. That doesn't always work. However, now there's our markings on top of the barrel. You'll see EM and L Nagant. That's Emile and Léon, the two Nagant brothers, and manufactured in Liège. And this example was made in 1879. We will also see a number of Belgian proof marks like that one, because of course the Liège plant is in Belgium. In addition, on the butt of the pistol is this number 727. I believe that's not actually the serial number, but I think that's actually a Russian Navy rack number, which is also pretty darn cool to see on there. And then lastly, on the side of the barrel here, we have CF, Charles Francois Galand, brevet. So basically that's Galand patent, because it was of course patented by him and then manufactured by the second party, the Nagant brothers, for the third party, the Russian military. This star K is another Belgian inspection proof mark. So in 1868 or 1870, this was definitely a cutting-edge revolver. This was high-tech, high-end weaponry for the time. The idea that you could have 6 metallic cartridges all simultaneously extracted. You would have to load them individually afterwards, but you're still shooting far faster than almost anything else on the market at the time. Certainly in the United States, the majority of the pistols out there, the service pistols, were still going to be Colt 1851s and 1860 Navies and Armies, muzzle-loading percussion guns. This was way ahead of the curve. And this is a fantastic example of them. It's a very comfortable pistol to handle. It's actually got a decent sight picture for the time. Be fast loading. This thing would not let you down. And it's interesting that of all places, the Russian military had the foresight to adopt these. We actually see that with a bunch of early Russian guns. They were on the forefront in many ways. People assume that the Russian military was backwards at this time. In fact, they weren't. They were one of the few countries to adopt the Gatling gun. They adopted the Gatling in very large numbers. Now, they may have been a little bit too far ahead of the curve, because they ended up with a number of first iteration sort of designs that would be improved upon a few years later. But in general, a lot of interesting firearms used by the Russian military that people may or may not realize were in heavy use today. Thanks for watching, guys. I hope you enjoyed the video. I really had fun taking a look at this guy. This is a gorgeous example of a quite scarce and difficult to find and very mechanically interesting revolver. If you would like to add it to your own personal collection, really put those 1895s to shame, go ahead and take a look at the description text below. You'll find a link there to Rock Island's catalog page on this piece. You can take a look at their pictures and their description and place a bid online, or come here to Rock Island to participate in the auction live. Thanks for watching.